Apophis is an asteroid that was discovered in 2004. It was named Apophis after a very destructive Egyptian god, very dark force. Probably no coincidence that it was named that. And the funny part about that, there's a couple elements. One, scientists, despite giving it the name of Apophis, now have basically downgraded the chances of it threatening Earth to 1 in 330,000. The NASA scientists, that is. I said it was officially discovered in 2004. Here's where we get to the kind of proof that scientists not only demand, but cannot escape from. And that is, as early as 1976, Meier wrote and published a kind of poetic description of this, what they called meteor, coming to hit the Earth. In 1981, he had a conversation with a man who we know as Quetzal in this body of work. And Quetzal told him that this meteor is coming. It is going to hit this Earth, specific area. It's going to be enormously destructive. And Billy's saying, well, why don't you deflect it? And he said, you know, we can't, but your scientists have to come together on Earth in a specific way to deflect this meteor. Otherwise, you're going to be enormously damaged. Everybody listening to our interview, watching our interview, the majority of people would be affected by this. So here's the part of it that makes it inescapable. In 1991, after the informal publication by Meier, this transcript was reproduced in a book in German, copyrighted and published. In 2001, it came out in a book called And Yet They Fly. Library of Congress, copyright.
I have that book.
Okay, well that's 3 years before it's officially discovered. That is something you can't wiggle out of. Now there's another element. I mean, there's many levels of this that are interesting, but when you try to argue with copyrights, forget it. But then again, people say, well, why is it called the Red Meteor? Let me give a little background side note for people that might not know. In 1978, Meier foretold another asteroid was coming. He said it was going to be called Tutatis. In 1989, that asteroid was not only discovered, but people named it Tutatis. We have the copyrighted book from 78 that Meier published it in. Now, how did he know, number one, that this thing was coming and what it would be named 11 years later? And then, the real question is, well, why did he call Apophis the Red Meteor? Just a few days ago, a young Austrian physicist wrote me, and this is where you come into the domain of Carl Sagan and SETI and all these other places where they say, if extraterrestrials really exist and are out there and want to make contact with us, they should do it in a universal language that we all understand, like mathematics. Right? That'd be perfect. Seemingly. However, young Austrian physicist Anton Hanekamp writes me and says, I was looking into something called the Torino scale. The Torino scale was created by scientists at a meeting in Turin or Torino, Italy, and it's a method of categorizing the level of threat, of danger, of incoming objects. They have a numerical scale from 0 to 10, 0 being least, 10 being most. But what Hanekamp noticed was the correlation isn't just in the numbers. There is a visual color coordination from white to green to yellow to orange to
red.
The universal symbol for danger.
So they describe it as the Red Meteor.
Right.
As a synonym for dangerous meteor.
Right.
Take us all out.
Yeah, and by mentioning that, you also would bring us back to saying, well, wait a minute, supposedly it's an asteroid. But there's a division of, it's a scientific division, American Academy of Sciences or astronomers or something, and they said, I was searching online, and they said that Apophis meets the criteria of an LL chondrite meteorite. Now, the thing to remember here, there is no wiggle room. Why do I say that? We know that Meier published, the outside date is 91. The Torino scale wasn't invented until 1995. That means that the extraterrestrials not only spoke to us in the simplest of universal languages, they foresaw that scientists on Earth would create that scale with the color language, so they wouldn't have to worry about mathematics, because every man, woman, and child, every animal seeing red has that reaction. We are conditioned.
It's a universal symbol for
universal for danger.
For danger. Yeah.
So that is established. That's in there. Plus, they describe it as the meteor to give us the clue additionally, because a meteor or a meteorite only describes an object that makes impact with the Earth, not that is floating around in space and flies by. When it makes impact with the Earth, it's a meteorite or part of a meteor. So we have inescapable scientific proof, communication from more advanced intelligences, speaking the simplest and plainest of language to say, this is coming, it's dangerous, and it will hit your Earth unless you come together and prevent it.
Was that the Enoch prophecies that was from?
No.
Or this was later?
This was actually, as I say, first as a poetic form in 76, then 81. Around 1981, which you may not know, was an earlier publication of a chunk of the Enoch prophecies too.
Okay.
The interesting thing, and I'm glad you brought up the Enoch prophecies, is I went back to them and I looked, and they're pretty severe and intense, and they foretell things, some of which have already happened, and some of which we only hope won't. I didn't see the meteor striking. And the reason I'm so excited about it is because you have a network, you have an audience of people. The advice throughout all the Meier material, with the exception of the specific advice from the Plejarans that your scientists must come together and create something to deflect this, and they tell us how with a nuclear weapon, and the Russians apparently read it and are now wanting to bring scientists together to do it. But it's the ground level, grassroots, you, me, and the people that are your audience who can apply the pressure socially so this doesn't go away. We don't forget about it because of the Super Bowl or the next anything else.
So we need to nuke the Apophis?
No, actually not
or
nuke it.
Hit it on and deflect it off course?
We need to explode a nuclear device within a specific proximity to this, 1,100 foot, 300 some meter, within a range whereby the shock wave of a true nuclear explosion will deflect it from its course. Okay. They said, obviously, and our scientists would understand this and probably do, that if you blow it up, you're going to have a shower of deadly meteorites hitting the Earth, and that would be horrible too.
Didn't Bruce Willis do that one time?
Well, that's the thing. Things like this always seem like they've got to be like some kind of a Bruce Willis movie, because we're not really geared to understand the magnitude and reality of things like this we've never seen in our lifetime.